We're here tonight at a remarkable moment in the history of the nation that Jefferson, and if I may, Jackson, did so much to create and to sustain. As in Jefferson's time, whether it was the hot summer of 1776 in Philadelphia with those bluebottle flies coming in from the stables next door as he drafted the Declaration, or the tumultuous election of 1800, at this moment, there are, as Winston Churchill said in another context, things afoot in the world which will be spoken of as long as the English language is known in any corner of the globe. Jefferson adored, even worshipped, the new and the innovative, the fresh and the first. So I think it's safe to say that the administration of the first African-American president in our history is, in its inevitably complicated and contradictory way, a rather Jeffersonian event. Jefferson and Jackson shared a common bond, and a bond that connects all of us as well, even now. The mystery of history allows us to see them as interconnected chapters in a story of a nation whose vices and virtues are nowhere on clearer display than here at Monticello, and in the lives and legacies of the masters and the slaves who populated this place. In sum, Jefferson made Jackson possible, and Jefferson Jackson. And in the fullness of time, they both helped make our lives possible. Were it not for Jefferson's pen and politics, America might not have happened at all. Were it not for Jackson's devotion to union and to democracy, the America that we know might never have come to be. I want to be very clear. I'm not being sentimental, and I hope I'm not being overly simplistic. Jefferson and Jackson were, for all their gifts and all their grandeur, practitioners and perpetuators of the worst of human sins. There's no excusing that. But a more productive question for us in our time, I think, is less about what terrible sinners they were, and more about what we can learn from those sins. One generation's accepted reality becomes the next generation's clear evil. My friend Arthur Schlesinger Jr., whom we lost 2 years ago, although Arthur went in the way he would like to have done, at a steakhouse with a martini. I'm aiming for that. He used to say that self-righteousness in retrospect is easy, also cheap. It's far easier and self-aggrandizing to look back and to condemn. And it's much harder to look around us now, in our own hour upon the stage, to assess wrong and try to right it. It is meet and right to judge the past with a cold eye, but it is also meet, right, and morally urgent to judge ourselves with equal honesty and a recognition that there are unresolved questions of justice and equality that should command the attention of our whole hearts. I do not need to speak much of Jefferson to you. You are the custodians of his legacy, which is, in a very real way, the legacy of all America and all Americans. You know him as the man of ideas who synthesized the American mind in the Declaration, as the devoted diplomat who represented the young nation abroad, as the Secretary of State and the Vice President who played his part in the national government's hours of infancy. And you know him as the practical politician who became president, not just any early president, but the first candidate of change in our history, a tall, intellectually restless man who, in spite of his protestations to the contrary, actually loved the cut and thrust of politics and spoke of bipartisanship in noble terms, all while knowing very well how to exercise shrewd and effective party leadership to turn principles into action. It sounds somewhat familiar. Without Jefferson's redefinition of the whole nature of the relationship between the individual and the state, the America we know and love would not have taken shape. By writing that men, and ultimately an expanded definition of what we meant by men, were created equal with rights that came from a source outside human control, he created a world in which those rights could not be taken away by the hand of a king or the hands of a mob. In this, Jefferson laid the foundations of our understanding of democracy, an understanding more fully articulated by Andrew Jackson than by any other American politician of our early or middle years. A word about Jefferson and what I think is one of his most important legacies, that of religious liberty. America was founded on the principle that if God himself, if one is of a religious point of view, did not compel obedience, then no man should try. That, as he's put it in the first words of the Virginia Statute for Religious Liberty, that whereas Almighty God hath created the mind free. In those words are all the complexities and contradictions of the man whose house we stand in the shadow of and of the country he helped create. Asserting that there was a divine source, or at least a source of creation beyond human control, was a way of enshrining and making inviolate the rights of conscience and of liberty of movement and thought. Without Jefferson, we would not be living in the kind of nation we are, because the theocratic impulse would have been stronger and would have been more corrosive. He saw as clearly as anyone, arguably only James Madison saw it as well, that the God who gave us life gave us liberty at the same time, and they both lived together.